dangerous times are basically ahead for 45. Um, his the percentage for impeachment is rising, while his approval rating is dropping, which is a good thing. Americans, by a 45% to a 38% plurality, now support a vote by the House of Representatives to impeach 45. Um, a USA Today poll finds. As allegations continue to swirl around an embattled White House, by a similar margin, 44 to 35% of those surveyed say the Senate, which would then be charged with holding a trial of the squatter, should convict 45 and remove him from office. He should have never been in there in the first place. The survey of one consisted of 1,000 adults, taken Tuesday and Wednesday, underscores the perilous situation the squatter finds himself in, as House committees subpoena documents and prepare to hear testimony into accusations that he pressured the leader of Ukraine to investigate a political rival, then tried to hide the account of their phone call. 45, who has released a rough transcript of his July 25th call with the squatter of Ukraine, with the president of Ukraine, says the conversation was perfect and that there was no wrongdoing. Technically, it was not perfect and there is wrongdoing. On Tuesday, he lashed out during a White House news conference, referring to the inquiry as a hoax. Americans have long been weary of impeachment. A USA Today Suffolk University poll taken in June, months before the formal impeachment inquiry was launched last week, found opponents outweighing supporters by nearly 2 to 1, which was 61% to 32%. By several national surveys have shown attitudes significantly shifting in the past 10 days. Since the latest allegations emerged about Ukraine and the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced impeachment inquiry, our latest USA Today poll shows that public support for impeachment continues to build with a plurality. Saying the U.S. House should vote to impeach, said Cliff Young, who's the president of the Ipsos Public Affairs. Most importantly, an overwhelming majority of Americans say that a president is subject to laws like any citizen. Public opinion might be tolerant, but there are limits. The question of impeachment opens a huge partisan divide. Among Democrats, 74% in the new USA poll support impeachment. Just 17% of Republicans agree. Even among Republicans, however, 30% say that the squatter asking Ukraine to look into the behavior of former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter would be an abuse of power, which it was. And 80% of Republicans, a higher number than among Democrats or Independents, say the squatter is subject to all laws just like any citizen. One more warning sign for 45. Nearly two-thirds of Republicans say there isn't enough reliable information to decide whether he should be impeached. Technically, there is. That leaves open the possibility that dramatic disclosures and persuasive evidence could convince some in 45's own party that impeachment is warranted. Democrats are more likely to say that they already know enough. Just 15% say there isn't enough evidence so far. Technically, there is. The survey includes some cautionary notes as well for Biden, the Democratic frontrunner for the presidential nomination to challenge 45 next year, by 2% to 1. By 2 to 1, 42% to 21% say those polls say there are valid reasons to look at the behavior of Joe and Hunter Biden in Ukraine. There isn't much to really go after them on that. Even 1 in 4 Democrats say an investigation will be legitimate. Two-thirds of Republicans agree. Joe Biden was the Obama administration's point person on Ukraine. His son pursued lucrative business arrangements in there. There has been no evidence of wrongdoing by either Biden, though 45 on Tuesday accused them both of being corrupt, and 45 would know all about being corrupt because he's the most corrupt person there is. That said, the poll found a broad bipartisan consensus, including more than 6 in 10 Republicans and Democrats, that the children of senior officials should be prohibited from benefiting from their family relationships. While often not illegal, the procession of self-dealing and conflicts of interest have long fueled a voter distrust of government and its leaders. Critics have charged that 45's children and his business empire have used his position for financial gain, which is true, he has. In the poll, views were mixed about whether the whistleblower, who originally reported concerns about 45's phone call with the Ukrainian president. 71% of Democrats call that person a patriot. Just 10%. 71% of Democrats call the whistleblower a patriot. Just 10% call him or her a traitor. A label Trump has that 45 has used. The squatter hasn't yet convinced the majority of members of his own party that the description fits so. Among Republicans, 36% call the whistleblower a traitor, but 21% say he or she is a patriot. The largest number, 43, say they don't know whether to call him that or not. Excuse me. A majority of Americans are knowledgeable about some of the particulars of the impeachment process. 56% know that impeachment begins in the House. 55% know that impeachment votes in itself doesn't remove a squatter from office, but 62% know that a two-thirds majority in the Senate would be needed to do that. However, most Americans don't realize that that would be an unprecedented step. 51% say American presidents have been removed from office by impeachment in the past, while 2 presidents have been impeached by the House. Neither Andrew Johnson or Bill Clinton was convicted by the Senate. A third president, Richard Nixon, resigned in the face of near certain impeachment and conviction. Few Americans, only just 3%, predict that 45 will voluntarily resign before the end of his first term, which I don't see that happening because his ego is too big for that. His ego won't let him resign. 15% expect him to be removed through impeachment. 1/3 of those surveyed, 33%, say he will remain and serve out his first term as president. Another 29 predict that he would not only do that but also win a second term. Hopefully that does not happen. The online poll has a credibility interval of plus or minus 3.5 percentage points.